5. Rude Awakening. John. Who didn't find Dr. Nicholson frightening? We stopped just outside the steps of Milton. I looked back towards the entrance. Jonas snarled as he moved past me. He opened the door for Dr. Nicholson. One other man was already inside the vehicle. The engine was running. A second man in a black suit climbed in the front with the driver. Dr. Nicholson was the only other man I knew who had so much security. "She's quite lovely." Dr. Nicholson's voice made me uneasy. I met his eyes as he stopped by the door of his vehicle. Jonas stood beside him, holding the door open. I like her. I doubted that. I didn't like the idea of him regarding her in any way. I very much hope she is not a distraction. I would hate to think what I would have to do if she were. I furrowed a brow. Jonas smiled alongside him. I tried to direct the subject to his plans about dinner. "Sir, what did you mean about dinner? Is it wise to insert yourself into the assignment as my father this far into the mission?" Jonas looked surprised by what I had asked. I was stunned myself that I had said it. He was pissing me off, threatening my girlfriend. Had I just thought of Claudia Bell as my girlfriend? Dr. Nicholson moved closer to me. Even though it was quite menacing, he was calm. "Wise would be finding what I am looking for. Find me the person in the video. All I want is he or she. Once I have what I want, there will be no reason for me to return to this place." He looked up at the school in disgust. "You should be thankful I have a soft spot for you, John Slater, or I would have Jonas eliminate her without hesitation. I trust your word she is not a distraction." Jonas gave me a smug smile. I restrained my temper. It took a lot to do so. "Regardless, it appears that inserting myself, as you stated, will be beneficial to your role." Dr. Nicholson climbed into the interior of the car. Jonas shut the door. The window of the vehicle slowly lowered. Jonas moved away and climbed inside. "When the time comes, how will you ever explain to her why it is you have to leave?" he grimaced. "I'm sure this is a thought that has crossed your mind." The window went up and the vehicle drove out of the parking lot. "I don't plan to leave, that's how," I answered to myself as I watched the vehicle disappear. I looked across the parking lot to the very far side where a small section appeared to have once been a sitting area for students. Half of it was destroyed. The whole was sectioned off with yellow tape. I went back inside the building and to the main office. Mrs. Wallace was still making calls, but it looked like she was packing up. Joseph was in his office with Michael. I caught sight of Claudia by the couch in Joseph's office. She immediately looked over at me. I could see she wanted to be by my side, but didn't move. "Well, I hope it's not as bad as we're assuming," Michael said as I stepped in. "I hate to think what would happen to Milton." Dr. Nicholson's words had been harsh on Milton. Michael seemed to be taking them rather hard. "As I said, once we know what we have out there, we'll decide. We have classes tomorrow until we are sure. I spoke to the official outside just before my brother came to see me. It's looking less and less dangerous from their perspective." "What has the superintendent instructed?" Michael asked. "Superintendent? I'll take the advice of the official with the equipment before that of the superintendent." That was blunt and brutal of Joseph. "Right." Michael looked like a timid rabbit in Joseph's presence. I wondered if I had appeared the same way when Dr. Nicholson was here. I made myself noticed. "Ah, nephew, did you have a nice chat with Dad?" he smirked, flashing me a settled look. I nodded. I was angry with the fact he had tossed me under the bus by reporting me to Dr. Nicholson and telling him that Claudia was a distraction. That was not cool. I wanted to tell him as much. However, what did I expect from him? He was bound by the ethics of his guardian duties. "It was nice meeting your father, John," Michael said to me. I knew that was a lie. I wouldn't wish that man's presence on anyone, not even my worst enemy. "He seems well put together, a very interesting man." Claudia rolled her eyes. I laughed, only to get a curious look from Michael. That stopped my laughter quickly. "Interesting does not begin to describe my brother," Joseph intercepted. "He's more like arrogant. The one time you could say something bad about your boss and get away with it. He's the reason John lives with me." I clenched my jaw, crossing my arms. In a way, I wanted him to shut up. Michael didn't know how to respond, but I think he agreed with Joseph's description of Dr. Nicholson. Mrs. Wallace stuck her head through the office door. "Sir, if you don't mind, I'm headed out." Was she talking to Michael or Joseph? Her eyes found Michael before she looked directly over at Joseph. That didn't surprise me. "Not a problem, Miss Wallace. Get some rest. We have a lot of work tomorrow." "So we'll be open?" she asked, sounding surprised by the news. "Until further notice, yes," Joseph said. "I'll need you in early to make the announcements and type up a formal letter to the parents notifying them of the incident." "Sir, we can just post it on the website." "I also want a letter," Joseph said, asserting his authority. He was thorough. The woman nodded and left. She looked unhappy. Who could blame her? "Can I help with anything?" Michael asked. "I was planning on working on a few things, but my day is quite open." "Ah, sure, I could use the help. John, would you like—" Joseph started. I cut him off, focusing my attention on Claudia's guardian. "Michael, if you like, I can take Claudia home. I think she's bored." She looked pleased I had said something. I think she was trying to get out of there, but didn't know how to. "John, you wouldn't mind?" Michael asked. I froze for a moment, unable to speak. I'm not sure why. It almost felt that all this wasn't real. Or maybe it was. Joseph's grin was making me wonder what other things he had said to Dr. Nicholson. Could I trust him now? I didn't really have a choice. He was my guardian. He wouldn't betray me. He was there to look out for me. "John, take Claudia home," Joseph said, which surprised and made me suspicious at the same time. "Do you mind?" Michael asked once more. Claudia made her way to me. She grabbed my hand to lead me away. "Not at all," I muttered under her spell. I would let her lead me anywhere. Claudia waved as we exited the office. I felt her hand in mine and was surprised when she hadn't pulled it away. We stepped into the hall and she looked over at me.